Hi guys, welcome back to Catadactyl. I'm Kat, and today I'm going to be doing my Black History Month recommendations. So I just want to recommend these as books that, if you don't already know about, would be absolutely fantastic for you to pick up in February, which happens to be Black History Month. So I'm going to start off with a book that I read the longest time ago, and it is a middle grade novel called The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. So I actually read this book in middle school and it has stuck with me for a very, very long time. I recently saw this book on a list when I was looking up books to read for Black History Month, and it just brought me immediately right back. I mean, like, I could even recall the characters and what happened in the book and how devastating it was for me to read. So in this book, we follow the Watson family, and it is comprised of a mother, a father, a sister, an older brother named Byron, and a younger brother who we see the world through. One of the boys is really acting up, and they decide that they're going to take a road trip to Grandma's house down in Birmingham to kind of straighten him out. So this book is such a slow burn because the first 3/4 of the novel are really focused on the funny family elements, the things that happen as they're trying to get control of the kids, the funny things that siblings do to each other, and then when they reach their grandmother's house in Birmingham, something absolutely devastating happens, and it becomes a complete and total look at racism and the violence that can be wrought by just the ignorance of white society, or just people looking to hurt people of other races, is devastating. And I think it's a really quick read. It is middle grade, but it is really powerful. I mean, when I saw it on that list, I was like, I really need to talk about it. So I wasn't necessarily planning to do a Black History recommendations video, but when I saw that book, I just really wanted to talk about it and tell you guys that yes, it's amazing, and yes, you should read it for the month if you are looking for a great middle grade read. It deals with the church bombings in Birmingham in 1963, and I just can't get it out of my mind, and it is amazing. Okay, so the next book on this list for Black History Month recommendations is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. Henrietta Lacks has become famous for her cells known as HeLa, which are used to map genes and look for cures for cancer. One of the reasons that I'm recommending this book so highly is that it is the account of the history of one of the most important figures in scientific research ever, and it just so happens to be the unspoken Black history of Henrietta Lacks. And until this book was made, almost no one had heard the story of Henrietta Lacks, which is just mind-boggling, crazy. So this is another book, if you haven't read it, you really need to read it. If you have studied science, if you are at all involved in Black history rights, or the rights of a body pertaining to science, or anything along those lines, you should definitely read this book. So Rebecca Skloot researched extensively the Lacks family and had a lot of contact with Henrietta Lacks' daughter. And through that, she made this book which goes through their whole history. For instance, her cells were taken without her knowledge in 1951 and then used, because they didn't die, in so many scientific experiments all over the world, yet her family doesn't see any money from that, has no recognition from that, isn't known to anyone, which just boggles my mind. It's crazy. This should be like a standard reading book for everyone who ever takes science, ever, period, end dot. If you haven't read this book, you really should read it, and I think I really wanted to just let you guys know for Black History Month, because it fits in that framing really well, but really you should just read it anytime. So if you don't get around to it in February, maybe pick it up in March. It is really important, and I'm so glad I read it, and I'm kind of really so ashamed that I hadn't heard of Henrietta Lacks before I read this book, having studied science for so many years. I'm so glad that I remedied that and read this book. So highly recommend. So the next book I have to recommend on this list is Ruby by Cynthia Bond. This is an absolutely devastatingly powerful novel about growing up as a child in the South. So I will leave the full review down below. In this book we follow Ruby, who is a young girl growing up in Liberty in the South. She has a terrible childhood, and she dreams of leaving where she has grown up and making a name for herself, and she does. But then something from her childhood calls her back, and it just becomes a devastating look at how a place that should build you up really can just tear you down, and that family and community can actually just be a devastating force. The other person we follow is Ephraim Jennings, who is a boy that used to love Ruby in her youth and loves her still. And a lot of people don't take Ephraim seriously, especially not the powerful people in the community. And as darker elements weave themselves in and out of the narrative, Ephraim needs to decide what he will do to help Ruby and how much he is willing to sacrifice. So one of the ways that this book represented the Black community and also racism and just malintentions of humanity in general was through a lot of magical realism, which Cynthia Bond wrote in as Bayou culture or voodoo, and a lot of those elements were tied in so deftly that I was just like mesmerized, transfixed by this novel, and I was totally swept away by it. It's great. So if you're looking for a novel that has magical realism and deals with racism in the American South, I really recommend this novel. It was so amazing. Those are 3 books that I just feel like are such amazing reads and are perfect for Black History Month because they deal exclusively in Black history in America. And I hope that you guys are going to have an amazing reading month and that you guys read some really powerful things. I'm going to do a video coming up about what books I am planning to read because this video is books that I have already read. So look out for my upcoming reads in another video. If you have any books that you think I should read based on what I have said, or just in general that you would recommend to me for Black History Month, please do let me know down in the comments. It would be really so helpful, and I'm always looking to fill in knowledge that I don't know. So if you found this video helpful or you liked it, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. It would really mean a lot. And without further ado, I'm just gonna say bye for now. So yeah, bye, toodles!